He down.
Bro, behind you. The captain dude, man.
Running from me? You ain't running from me with the shock turret? What's up, pros and hoes, whatever floats your goat? It's Relentless here, and I'm bringing you yet another Division build video. As you have noticed in the beginning of a little bit of gameplay, I call this the fly swatter. If you're at a checkpoint or a safe house and you are plagued by manhunts or pesky little rogues that like to, flag behind you and shoot you in the back, have no fear. This build is here. I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but it's very effective. Just as you've seen in the gameplay, it was easily, it was a duo. My teammate went down after the first manhunt went down, and I easily swatted the other two by myself, along with many others quite easily. So with this build, you do have survivability, and you are dishing out max damage as possible. As you'll see, if you have these pieces, you can easily do 72k crit body damage, and that is to the body. And there's only one piece that I need to switch out once I find another. But even without that, this piece gear set really destroys. So without further ado, let's get into the fly swatter. As you can see, I'm utilizing the 4 Banshee with the Tenacious Mask and the chest piece. So let's start with the Banshee pieces first, and then we'll go on to the rest, and then we'll get into the character stats along with the talents and weapon mods that we have in our arsenal. 1309 armor, good armor roll on the Banshee backpack. Not completely optimized yet, but dang near close. 1391 as firearms. In the majors, you want crit hit damage. In the minors, I have burn resistance. But if you prefer having more ammo, then by all means have ammo capacity in your minor attributes. But if you are deciding to go rogue with this build, do not worry, because as it states, while rogue, all ammo is completely refilled every 30 seconds. Damage taken from non-rogue players reduced by 10%. While not rogue, damage to rogue players is increased by 10%. This bonus is increased to 20% for 10 minutes after being killed by a rogue. So let me repeat that. While not rogue, damage to rogue players is increased by 10%. And then after being killed by a rogue, you get a 20% for 10 minutes. Now moving on to the mod slots, we have stamina and health with 2 6% first aid self heals. Now this is the piece in particular I'm talking about. Maxed out armor roll, maxed out main stats, but as you can see in the majors, I have crit damage, SMG damage, and I was unable to get crit chance. Now as you'll see when we move over to the character sheet, after we get finished with all the gear pieces, you will see that I'm right at 50% crit chance, but with the addition of a 6% crit chance here, then you are hitting at 50% crit chance. But that's what you want in the major attributes is crit damage. The archetype weapon, in this case I am using the SMG as always, and then you would want crit chance. Moving on to the holster, we have great main stats across, almost completely maxed out on firearms, but maxed out in stamina and electronics with maxed out armor. In the major attributes, you want crit chance rolled in the majors, and in the mod slot we have a first aid self heal. Moving on to the knee pads, awesome armor roll at 1668, maxed out in the firearms, and the major attributes you want crit damage. In the minors, I have shock resistance, blind death resistance, and another 33% burn resistance. In the mod slots, I have firearms and health with a 6% first aid self-heal. Now let's get into what really makes this build completely potent and makes all those manhunts seem like little flies, and you can easily swat and melt them. The Tenacious Mask, maxed out armor, maxed out at 1272 in stamina. Tenacious Talent is increased damage by 10% for 10 seconds when using a med kit. And now that they are plagued by so many say predators marks out there, that you basically have to pop a med kit, so that way you take off the bleed effect, and plus you're immune for a few seconds. That comes in handy. So since you're popping medkit anyways, then you're going to get an increased 10% bonus damage. And in the minors, you want crit chance. And as you can see in the minors, I have 16% disarm resistance, but in the majors, you want the 4% crit chance. And in the mod slot, we have 262 stamina with 2861 health. Now moving on to the chest piece, it's the Bulletproof Barrett's chest piece. Maxed out in stamina, almost maxed out in its armor. The max is 203 and we're at 1969. The talents for the Barretts is no skills on cooldown, increases skill power by 10%. One skill on cooldown increases damage by 5%. Two skills on cooldown increases armor by 10%. Now, since we do have low skill power and basically our skills are on a cooldown for at least 30 seconds, then the majority of the time, I'd say 90% of the time, you're going to have at least one skill on cooldown. So basically you're getting the 5%, 90% of the time coming from the Barretts. In the majors, I have health on the kill and health. In the minors, I have ammo capacity. And instead of health on the kill, some EDR or all resist would come in quite handy. And in the mod slots, we have stamina and health and another stamina and health. Now, I've seen a lot of people run with a ninja bag, let's say 2-piece pred or alpha, and then 3-piece banshee to give them the complete 4 and 3. But Predator's Mark will only give you 8% SMG and assault rifle damage, and that is a constant, that is a given. Some people will argue saying that's more reliable and a constant damage that you don't have to worry about your skills. But with being low on skill power, and 90% of the time, you're going to be getting that 5% from the Barrett's chest piece. If you're going after manhunts or rogues, or just switch to this build because you're getting plagued at the safe house or the checkpoint, and you're not one of these little pansies that just wants to run and go to another checkpoint and fast travel there to avoid them, by all means, there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm more or less a PvPer. I like to actually go out and just, swat them away and, exactly tell them whose server this actually is. And sometimes, yes, I do get swatted myself. But 9 times out of 10, I will go out and repeatedly go out till I kill you all, or you run away like little girls that you are as soon as you get rank 1, by all means. I mean, what's the point even trying to get it off if you're not even rank 5? But that's beside the point. But if you are in policing mode and just policing the DZ, then this is a definitely must. Now, like as I was saying earlier, you get 5% from Barrett's, you'll get that 90% of the time. And usually when you come across Preds, you have to pop med kits anyways to cleanse yourself and get that immunity from the bleed status effect. And when you do so, you get that 10% from Tenacious. So let's add it up. 90% of the time, you're going to have a constant 5% from Barrett's. Pop a med kit, you get 10%. If you're already going against rogue agents or manhunts, you're getting 10% against them. So that'll be a total of 25. And let's say, for instance, you die by one, and sometimes I'll actually go out there and let them kill me just so I can get the Banshee buff, so that's 20%. So I'm having, as soon as I go out, you drop your immunizer, you have one skill on cooldown, and then you hit the 5% from Barrett's. You're going against rogues, you've already died, so that's a 20%. You have to pop a med kit within the first 5 seconds, and that's another 10%. And let's say you have booster shot on top of that, then you're just adding damage on top of damage on top of damage, and they're just not going to get away from it. But anyways, let's get to the weapons. I'm utilizing, of course, the Bullfrog in the house. The house, I have Vicious, Deadly, and the card counter. In the mod slots, we have the magazine size, crit damage, crit chance, and the optics, crit damage, optimal range, and crit chance. Loud vent break. we have crit damage, crit chance, stability, and then the underbarrel we have crit damage, reload speed, and stability. Now some people don't like the bullfrog, and the stat doesn't reflect here, but actually I get another 2.4k base damage with this, so it's a total of 19.4. That doesn't necessarily reflect, and you'll see when I slow it down, when I completely massacre those manhunts, that your damage is quite a lot higher than what it says in your stats. And on this I have responsive, deadly, and uncomplicated, and I'll go through slowly through all. I mean, I'm pretty much sure y'all know how to mod your weapons, and most of you will probably be using an M4 or LVOAC. But in this case, I just have a secondary just in case, you know, I need to shoot a little pop shots from a little distance before I move in close, but more or less I'm utilizing the house. But let's go over to the character sheet. 49.5% crit chance, and like I said, with that extra 6% on the gloves that I'm missing, then you're going to be right where you want to be, around 55% crit chance with 136% crit hit damage and 50% headshot damage. And let's say you're running with one other that is using a pulse, then that's going to shoot your crit hit damage up even more, and you can completely massacre them. 5% reload speed. We get the 5% help on a kill, which is no big deal. I'd rather have the crit chance instead of the 9% skill haste. And then my survivability, my armor mitigation is 33.25%, max health pool at 325. So you do have survivability with that. With this build, I usually run the DZ. I can run by myself, solo, whatever. I farm with this build. It puts out enough damage against NPCs to do any activity you want to, but in case you encounter other rogues or someone trying to mess up your extraction, then you can melt them down and extract with ease. You can completely swat those flies away that are just completely, sometimes can be annoying and just like trolling people that are just trying to farm in the DZ, but the DZ is high risk, high reward. But I hope you enjoyed the gameplay. Thanks so much for tuning in the build. If you do like the build and the gameplay, it's not more or less required, but a thumbs up is always appreciated, and also leave a comment in the comment section below. I find this, I don't know, how would you call it, arrangement of these gear pieces more effective than running either with the 2 Alpha and Ninja Bag or the 2 Pred and Ninja Bag along with the Banshee. But that's all I have. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all your love and support, and we'll see you guys fudging later.